Hello, everyone. I'm Emulation, international SEO consultant and web performance consultant. Today, I will share with you how a few years ago, Google Lighthouse made me fail and lose money, so you don't have to face what I faced. So back to my 2017 journey on web performance consulting. I was a big fan of Google Lighthouse. And this was my web performance workflow. Start with Google Lighthouse and finish with Google Lighthouse. And between these two steps, we make auditing, implementing, and trying to optimizing things, right? So on one of my biggest customers, it was an international e-commerce website. We were working on optimizing the PLP page on mobile. And we were able to drastically improve Google Lighthouse score, moving from 42 to 63, and that was awesome, really, because web developers love making impact, and me as a consultant, I need to help my customers. So this was me excited, asking for deploying in production. Please deploy it. I'm eager to see how this will behave in production, right? So now what? We deployed. We need to wait at least 28 days for the next monthly CRAM user experience report to see if it's benefited our users or not. So every second Tuesday of month, we have the monthly data set and see if we really improved it. And you know, on your website, in 1 month, many, many things could happen. Features added, bug fixes, regressions, you know, and that's really too long to wait to be able to say, okay, we optimize things for our users, right? So, drum roll, and when the data set was live, unfortunately, users faced deterioration and not improvement on our main metric, let's say LCP, for example. Moved from 73 to 70%. So this was me disappointed. And what we did here was a shot in the dark. And this feels bad as a consultant because my job, my daily job, is to help my customers make impact and making websites faster for real users. So I needed to do a reflection work on this to understand why this happened and why we do have a mismatch between Google Lighthouse data and users' data, which is disappointing. So yeah, we need to justify our work to our customers. We were excited, Google Lighthouse improved, but ultimately we didn't help our users. So what's wrong with Google Lighthouse scoring system? This is the question I was trying to answer, which wasn't simple to do. So consider we have 100 users on our website. What we did on PLP page, does it fall somewhere? Does it represent a user? I don't know. Maybe yes, and maybe no. Let's have a look at Page Speed Insight report, showing both data, Lighthouse and field users' data, right? I'm sorry, but a real mess. This interface is confusing. When Google Lighthouse is reporting a perfect CLS score, 0 here, 75% of our users are facing a bad CLS score. Also, when we have a look on LCP, 75% of our users are facing a perfect largest contentful paint, which is great. When Google Lighthouse is saying that we have a 3 seconds LCP, which is not pretty good. So this doesn't surprise me because emulation isn't real life. I'm sorry, Nintendo, but playing tennis in real life doesn't feel like playing tennis on console game. So every day, there are many people are bragging about their Google Lighthouse achievement. Yeah, the perfect score, 100, which is good because at some way we are really making progress. Maybe you are impacting your users and maybe not. But I deeply understand these people because I've also been part of this in 2018. And web performance score obsession isn't new. These screenshots come from 15 years ago on some well-known tools. And we as a human, we have always been assessed and obsessed with graduation, you know, education system, medical exams, etc. So, okay, let's go back. Google Lighthouse data doesn't match users' data. Do they even correlate in some way? Brandy Kenny, a Googler, made a research on HTTP archive data with Crux data and found out that 50% of pages that have a perfect Google Lighthouse score doesn't pass Web Vitals. 50%. You have one chance out of 2 if you have 100 Lighthouse score. But also, with a score of 50, you may be able to do it. We may be able to pass the Web Vitals assessment. Oh my God, there is a blind spot somewhere in Google Lighthouse scoring system, isn't it? So the question is, do they have something in common? Of course they do. Both of them load web pages on a device, with a device or a device emulation, and in a context, right? So the main difference is that users interact with your interfaces, buy products, Zoom, fill in forms, but not Lighthouse. So talking about metrics, sorry for first input delay, interaction to next paint, because Google Lighthouse doesn't interact. Lighthouse only report partial CLS, above the fold CLS, no scrolling. And LCP depends on the conditions. So ultimately, they don't share as many metrics as we think they do. One day, a developer sent me a question by email and told me why, when we make 3 consecutive runs on the same page, on the same conditions, we never have the same score. And this was my answer. So you can also easily trick it. Barry Pollard makes the slowest fast page, perfect Lighthouse score, and frustrating user experience. 3 months ago, one of my customers' web agency sent us an email. We fixed all the web performance issues on the website, 3 exclamation marks, with this screenshot. And I was like, pardon? I mean, okay, I checked the website. Oh my God, they hacked the website. They added this code in the source code. Please don't do this. You are just misleading people. You are just tricking, and Google Lighthouse score doesn't impact SEO, right? So yeah, this code, it's a cloaking code. It checks if the page is loaded with Google Lighthouse or not, and if it's the case, just load HTML. We solved all the web performance. We can go back home, and we no more need consultants, no agencies. All right. So I answered, do you mainly care about your users or your Google Lighthouse? This is the question. So, you know, your users are different. And as Nick mentioned, we often make assumptions about 3G, 4G, 5G are everywhere. CPUs of devices are getting faster every year. And you know what? I checked Google Analytics report, devices report, and iPhone is our top audience device. Yeah, iPhone, everywhere. I'm sorry, you are just making assumptions because iPhone isn't real life. Only 30% of worldwide share is iPhone, iOS dotted devices, and 70% are Android devices. So hear me out. Your users have potentially 2019, 2020 devices with broken glass, maybe. So as a user, as a user, I don't care about your Google Lighthouse score or your technical stack, or even if it's ChatGPT powered. We don't care. We just need information or fill or make some task. I'm looking for insurance. I'm looking to buy a product. I don't care about your technical scoring stuff, right? So rely on your users' data, and here's how to do it. Thanks to this reflection work, I was able to transform my failed web performance workflow, but also to create a tool that focuses on users' data, called Speetles. So I transformed my workflow onto this. If you want to impact users' data, you need to start auditing on it, right? If you want to impact something, you're gonna need to monitor this, to audit this, and not audit with other tools that doesn't represent users, right? So start with auditing in fields. In fields, that means users' data, and fast validate on your users' data. Between these two steps, of course, we're gonna use synthetic tools, Lighthouse or your favorite tools in the market, right? So hear your users' experience and validate your efforts with them. This is the main meaning of this workflow, okay? Of course, here and in the first step, you can use your own real user monitoring tool. You can enjoy writing your SQL queries. You can do your Looker Studio dashboards, grabbing cracks data. And I created Speetles to make this happen easily and with a simpler way. So let's start with the first step. We need to hear our users' experience. We are no more going to talk about scores. We are going to talk about distributions, green, orange, and red distribution, good, average, bad, right? So when I audit website performance, I put the mobile and desktop side by side. That helps me to identify improvement points, but also distribution gaps. Sometimes we make assumptions that if our mobile CLS is good, our desktop one should be, which is not always the case. Also here we have a first input delay problem on mobile, which is more logical to see because interaction needs CPUs, etc. So always compare devices and distribution across the metrics. Here I'm just showing Web Vitals metrics, but I also check time to first byte, first contentful paint, and INP, the new experimental metric that probably will replace the first input delay. Okay, so another thing I love to do and which is very helpful is to see how every metric on every device distributes thanks to this histogram. This is, for example, the LCP histogram showing how our users are facing LCP. So on the x-axis, we have the values of LCP on milliseconds, and there we have the percentage. And we have the markers of good and bad average threshold. And you see this P55. This is the 75th percentile. That means 75 of your users are facing 6 seconds LCP, which is crazy, too much. So when we optimize web performance on websites, we need to push people to the left. So the goal is to push our 75th percentile to the left, to the green, to the safe zone. And if the P75 is here, the metric will pass green, and it will pass Web Vitals. Another thing I love to do, which is very helpful, is to compare metric distribution against competition. Okay? So I'm not going to say the brands, but it's surprising and shocking to see that your website is not performing, is poorly performing against competition. This can help fix goals, but also to challenge team and have a performance culture inside your team and say, yes, okay, let's go compete with them. Who has international website here? Great. Don't forget to compare your audience distribution on each of your targeted markets. This one of my customers, a French-based marketplace, but it's an international website on the same domain name, right? It's a .com domain. So this is so important to check the gap between people in countries like European countries and people in Middle East. So this is so important. Don't neglect this thing. Step 2, okay, we got many data about domain level distributions, metrics. We already know on which metric, on which device we need to work to optimize things. So now we need to do the right thing first to make the most of impact. So here we are going to do a transition between domain data to page level data. It's useless to monitor all your website pages. Doesn't make sense. What makes sense most is to take the top of your pages. Let's say you have a PLP for men, sign-up page, help page, and a blog, a PDP, etc. And what I do is to sort these pages from worst to best performing on each metric. So here, for example, I sorted them by LCP. So if you want to improve this 60% on device, on mobile or desktop, start with this low-hanging fruit page type, the main category, which has the most of red distribution on LCP, right? Step 3, this is what I was doing in 2017. So implement, test in lab. You can use Google Lighthouse. I love Lighthouse. And of course, the most important step. Okay, you with your customer team, you made efforts. You invested time and money in improving web performance. Now we need to be sure if we hit the mark or not. So don't wait 28 days. It's too late to validate, and it's really, you are not going to see if you made impact. So daily validation based on cracks data. So here, for example, we deployed the fix on PDP CLS on mobile, on desktop, sorry, and we made 34% of progress. So we deployed here. 2 days later, we are able to see the impact, if it's improving or regressing, right? So this is important to have these iterations and this rhythm of deployment validation in 1 week window. You won't need more than 1 week to validate your efforts. Another example, 7% improvement on LCP mobile on PLP page. Deployed, validated. And you go take other tickets, other optimizations, and you iterate. This is the principle of my workflow and my methodology. So remember the 75th percentile? When you improve the green distribution, your 75th percentile chart must go down. You are pushing people to the left. So here, our 75th percentile moved from 4 seconds to 2 seconds, which is great. That means the metric was in red distribution of Web Vitals, and now it's going to be green, so validated. And remember this frustration? You can prevent it by fast detecting regressions. So important. So here, a regression occurred on PDP page because marketing team decided to add a widget of reviews sliding, and every review have a different size, and this generated too much of CLS. So thanks to Slack alerts, we were able to detect fast, and react fast, okay? Of course, finally, we still need to validate monthly, to validate the outcomes, but also to make reporting to management, and to, yeah, we invested, we made efforts, and that's validated. So continue to have buy-in and sponsorship on web performance work. So this is so important to keep the trend going. Here, we did the website had a migration, so lost too much of web performance. And here we started trying to work on web performance. So to sum up, secret slide. So to sum up, never rely on Google Lighthouse only to monitor web performance. Use Lighthouse, use your synthetic tools, but mainly you should use your users' data. Focus on them, because at the end of the day, your users are buying your services or products and not Google Lighthouse, okay? Fast validation is so important. Don't wait 28 days. Make it really short cycle of validation of efforts and validate the outcomes and enjoy. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you for attending. Thank you, Brighton.
Need link building or content? Go to fatjoe.com. On-demand marketing services for agencies and teams. Fat Joe.